To be honest, it's always a bit of a struggle to come up on a stage like this with all the impressive speakers that we've had and then talk about the financial industry. A lot of you do not make the connection between happiness and the financial industry. Digital and the financial industry, yes, but happiness in the financial industry, no. And to be honest, I also have my very unhappy moments in the financial industry. I saw some of my colleagues in this room as well, and there's always this evil uncle that you see at birthday parties that start about bonus discussions or the lack of trust or his misery when interacting with companies like us. But after the financial crisis, I think everyone in this industry has learned how to deal with the evil uncles of this world. So that basically helps. But luckily, I am still very happy to work in this industry because it's an industry that changes extremely, extremely fast. Maybe not in the past, but it will in the future. For today, I have a few topics. I think they're already covered in the introduction. But before that, I would like to zoom into Robeco a little bit further to understand the asset management activities of Robeco, to see what digitalization and digitization means for the financial industry, look at trends that are disruptive, and also touch upon the topic of digital happiness in a broader sense. In 1929, 7 of our former colleagues from Rotterdam have started with Robeco. They wanted to have a company in which individuals could invest collectively. At that point, it wasn't there yet. And they were really seeking for a new solution that could help them with issues that they had. We are constantly trying to find a balance between controlling risk on one hand and innovation on the other hand. And what is so difficult about that? Because on one hand, we will be focusing on emerging markets, that's where we started, sustainability, but also being a leader in quant, and at the same time making sure that you are a trustworthy party for all your investors. And that balance we call cautious pioneering. So it has both integrated into one. Maybe to understand, how does the business model of an asset manager actually work? So we receive a management fee by managing all the money of our clients. And what we do with that is trying to find the best possible solution and product to outperform the benchmark. And the benchmark are benchmarks like MSCI World. And with our products, we're trying to create that outperformance or alpha. So the higher the active return on investment for our clients, the happier the clients. So that's basically asset management in a nutshell. Some key figures, just a few. We are not that big, we're mid-sized. We have offices around the world. In Rotterdam is the headquarters. We are focusing on quant, sustainability, and that is, I think, a niche in the market of asset management. Another important figure is who actually works within Robeco. If you talk about cautious pioneering, quant investing, sustainability, I can be very clear on that. If you are male, between 30 and 40 years old, and you have graduated with a PhD from one of the well-known universities, summa cum laude, or whatever name that you can use for that, and you have a background in econometrics or math, you'll probably be working at Robeco. Those are very social creatures, so you can understand how diverse we are with me as a COO of this company. But we are working on diversity of the minds. I had a discussion with someone yesterday about that. I won't bore you that much on Robeco, but I think it's good to understand what it is that the composition of our assets under management is. What is the build-up of our client base? If you look at the second ball, you can see that 70% is institutional clients and retail clients, or business to business, or B2C on the retail side. And it's good to understand the dilemma that I'll be zooming into later on. Let's look at digitization versus digitalization. Technology is the fastest changing element in the transformation equation, but it is not a good idea to generalize technology. Technology changes. So, what is digitalization and what is digitization? If you look at the Oxford Dictionary, you can see that it's the act of making analog inputs digital. Or digitalization is defined as a technology to actually interact with your clients. So where are we good at? Being quants, being bright. On the mathematical side, it's mostly on digitization. We are well ahead of the curve there. But on digitalization, we really lag behind. And how does that work? In the past, there were already a lot of developments from IBM on the magnetic stripe, or the smart card, or the launch of PayPal, of a Bitcoin. Those are all situations where analytical information is turned into digital information. Look at the financial industry. Look at us. We're really good in this. And how can it be that we are so behind on the other side, on digitalization? And how smart we are here, so we can automate back offices. We are not good in interacting with our customers. I think it's fair to say that yesterday the opening remark of George Connolly was that most of us in this room will probably cease to exist slowly, or slowly will become out of business. Well, for Robeco, that's not applicable. For Robeco, we will go fast, really fast. Because if we don't do anything, we'll be completely out of business. Knowing that our customer base is institutional on one hand, 70% and 30% retail, we'll be out of business. So what is the driver to what made us great on the digitization side, can make us good on the digitalization side? Customer expectations will rise. Look at technology, that's changing everything. Look at new risks. Look at trust, that's not there, still not there. And it drives the need to make sure that we move to digitalization. So what is it that we need to achieve? We need to think like a customer. That's weird. Why don't we think like a customer from a Robeco perspective? That's all that we have, don't we? So I was talking about those males between 30 and 40, the ones that were so bright. And what do they actually do? They start digging into their research. They work on the data. They write white papers. They create all kinds of brilliant financial products. And all of a sudden, they come up with this golden egg after 2.5 years of very, very, very hard work. And they say, listen, this is it. Have you seen it? And you get an award for that. The only problem is we are not in the business of creating golden eggs or creating more IP. We are in the business of monetizing out of that IP. And what is it that we need for monetizing on that IP? That is the customer. But the customer, in some cases, is not interested in our golden egg. And why not? Because the golden egg becomes too soon, is there too soon, they're not ready for it yet, or it takes a lot of time for them to be ready to receive the golden egg. So there's a complete mismatch between the customer and the IP that we create. So in all those years of existence of Robeco, we are trying to find the right balance between finding the balance on the IP side together with the customer's needs. If you look at this picture, whoever wakes up and thinks, I'm going to get myself a mortgage today? Or who wakes up thinking, I'm going to buy a drill? Or You wake up and think, I'm going to transact today. That's not how it works, right? You want to have a home, you want to have a nice place to live in with your family, or you want to have that hole in the wall because your wife or your husband asked you to hang up the painting, or you want to transact to buy something for a birthday. That is not thinking into the products that you actually sell, but really going into the needs of your customer. What is it that your customer actually needs? So more than ever, our customers demand solutions for individual needs. And the funny thing is that they don't really care who offers them that. It can be anywhere. Look at this graph. So this is a question where companies offered banking service. How likely would it be that people would be interested in taking on these services from companies that are not banks? Well, that's scary. At least it's scary for me in the financial industry. So a company called Square, that's one of the companies for the Dutch people that makes dongles. I don't know what the translation for dongles is, but maybe there is no good translation for a dongle. But PayPal, T-Mobile. So you look, going back to the financial crisis, people don't trust the banks. They don't want to be involved in the financial industry, but they are going to bank and maybe take asset management products from a technology company. That's a bit tough to explain to all my brilliant minds back at Robeco. But this is what's going on. This is what completely will disrupt us. And what's happening is that they take over the customer intimacy. They take over the relationship with the clients and others. So what are the trends in asset management that you see? Social demographic trends, regulatory, technology trends, but also a shift to retail. Now, how does that work? If you look at social demographic trends, so the blue trends on the outside, those are trends that we love. Because those trends will make sure that our pie as an asset management firm increases. And if you combine social security with that, the fact that we probably will all have to take care of our own pension in the future, this becomes a tailwind for the asset management industry. But now look also on the inside. Those are the social trends. There's a need for transparency, for immediacy, but also there are a lot of cultural differences. This is actually a circle where the asset management industry needs to invest, and it cannot survive without technology. You need to be very careful that you just don't look at the outside and at the blue balls and be very happy with yourself, but look at the inside. And this is actually what drives a technology agenda, the customer intimacy, transparency, trust again, integrity. That's the part that we need to focus on. The other one is that we need to keep a close eye on the generational differences, because for the youngsters, they will have another interaction with us than for maybe for the older people. And the products that you provide can be very difficult, but they all need to run into one back office, because if I create more back offices, it's going to increase our cost-income ratio, lower our profitability, and we're out of business. Finding a right balance here is important. I don't think I have to spend too much time on regulatory trends. Everyone knows what's going on. After the financial crisis, the focus was mostly on banks, insurance companies, trading companies, and ultimately also on the asset management industry. The UK and the US were already further down in their curve than in Europe, but you will see that the pressure and the standards that are used in the other countries will also come to Europe. So what does that mean? It means that regulatory changes are to stay. If we are not able to incorporate it, and we can do that via technology, but incorporate it into your processes and system, this means that you'll also be out of business. And the focus will be on the retail client protection, no longer on the trading side or on getting things right. It's moving much more towards privacy and protection of your end client. That means we need to be ready for that as well. Now, looking at technology, What is the, I think it's a comparable slide to the one before, where you saw that people are more likely to work together with technology companies on banking than with the actual banks. This is another one where you can see that the power of the online wealth managers or the robot advisors, robo-advisors, will definitely increase. They don't derive from the asset management side, they come from the technology side. And they will steal away, again, the intimacy with your customer. They have low costs and a lot of scale, so they are very, very disruptive for us. As an asset management company, we need to invest a lot to stay ahead of the curve in terms of integration, in making sure that all your applications connect together, that your security is up to date. But we derive from a small company growing bigger and bigger, and these technology companies and those robot advisors have a different start. They start already with everything integrated, and they can only increase the scale. Again, a big disruptor for us. Now remember the slide on the institutional market. 70% of our clients is institutional clients, mostly pension funds, and 30% is on the retail side. This basically shows that our business model has a tough time as well, because we are moving much from an institutional market to a retail market. A lot of insurance companies like to have their asset managers in-house, because that's from a lot of regulatory perspective much nicer to have than have a standalone asset manager and outsource the activities to companies like us. But you also see that the bigger growing population of aged people will try to obviously get their money out of the pension fund, so that withdrawals become bigger and bigger. And the focus on retail increases because there's a booming business of young people who like to be led by technology. So is this the end game? Is this where it stops for the asset manager? Because then this becomes a real pessimistic story. I don't think so. The only thing is that we need to know who's eating who and how do you do this. So one of the things is that we as financials become back in control on technology. We heavily need to invest. We need to get the disruptors in. Because the thing is, it's not the incumbents and the data and the technology companies that are going to disrupt everything. Because what we have is historical client data, piles of it. Technology companies don't have it. But it's time that we actually start to use that data. Because if we don't, in the meantime, the technology company will build up their own historical data. So focus on technology could be a solution for us to regain control and the link together with our customer. Or could it be that technology companies will be the customer interface and we will just do the dumb plumbing, right? We will just be the smart guys who create the IP and who have brilliant factor investing solutions or multi-factor, multi-asset solutions that we have. That's all brilliant. But we can't sell it because we don't have the channel. Maybe we should just then start thinking about the cooperation and focus on the core of what we do. But that changes the DNA of our company completely. And how long will cooperation be there? Because if the technology companies really start to understand how the financials do it, and the financial companies start to really invest in technology, that's probably the end of the cooperation. So it's not an end game, but it's a continuum equilibrium between all of these solutions, trying to find the right balance between innovation, controlling risk, technology, and customer intimacy. I'm sure that we will survive, but we have to come a long way. And that's why we also try to bring new people, new talents on the technology side, on the investment side, who think differently, who challenge us basically on everything that we do. And the other trend for us to really focus on technology is to stick to our core. What is it that we do? We provide high standard products for the investment management industry. So take away everything that's not really around the core and keep your focus where you need to have it. And make sure that your technology is around that core focus. And then I think we have a good chance to survive. This is a bit about the paradox of digital happiness versus digital maturity. So thinking about those clients again. So retail clients. So retail clients are technology savvy, they like to interact with their banks all the time. So you could say that if you move further down the curve of digital maturity, you will increase on the digital happiness side. It's a linear line. Could be true for the youngsters, but what if you have a retail business with an older and maturing organization where you say, I'm going to take away everything that you do by the email, and you don't have a password anymore, and you can't call the desk anymore to get your advice. You can only chat, and you can have this little puppet that talks to you on your screen where they might not even have a computer. So I think then you're in the second one, right? So then it starts nice, but it doesn't end nice, because if you move further down the curve of digital maturity, the less happy they get. But look at the institutional clients. Every institutional client, the insurance companies, the big pension fund, like to get their money managed by companies who also spend time on technology. They want to see our technology roadmaps before we interact with them. And so you could say, the faster we develop along the lines of digital maturity, the happier their customer is. But is that true? Is that really true? Because if you start using it, our customers also need to be ready to make sure that they can receive all the information. So a lot of times I still get the question, that's great, and they want to know stuff about our API platform and about our client portals and how to use it, but most of the time we get the question, can you send reports via PDF in the email, please? Because that's the only way that we can receive it. That's interesting. Do I need to invest then in a group of clients that's moving, shifting from institutional to retail, but are still the biggest chunk of our clients base? So those are all paradoxes and dilemmas that we are facing. Look at employees. The more digital mature we are, the happier they get, especially the ones that just came in and didn't want to work with Google. They really like Robeco and really want to make a difference and contribute in the financial industry, and that's the reason why they start working with us. But then we need to keep on investing in getting them in, because otherwise if they see that what they create doesn't lead to anything, or it's not being used, or your customer isn't ready for it, they will leave too. So we have a hard time on getting all those brilliant minds in to stick with us, because otherwise you're in the second one. And I think that wraps it up, because that is the paradox that we are facing. How to grow in digital maturity, because that's absolutely what our market asks, because otherwise there's no way we can survive. We like to increase the customer intimacy and increase on the digital happiness side, but we need to strike that continuing equilibrium to make sure that in 5 years' time we have a healthy balance. Thank you.
I think you have a complex job, Karin.
I do. I have a lot of trouble.
Yeah. So all the more, thank you for joining us. So I have one question for you, really. So you have the benefit. You said that if you're going to fail, you're going to fail fast.
Yes.
So that's great.
That's a good benefit.
That's a good benefit. Yeah. But at the same time, so you're talking about this dilemma between digitization and digitalization. Isn't it humanization that you're looking for? That you have to become more human-centric?
Yeah, I think and that's also the part on the digitalization side, because that human part is on one hand on your employee side, making sure you get the brightest and the smartest people in, and on the other hand it's your client. It is your client that you need to approach from a human side. You need to know what it is that their need is. What is it that they want? We have to stop creating IP because we love to create IP, but that's not how you safeguard your business model, right? You need to monetize of it, and
So
that's where you need your clients.
So
So,
do the,
yeah.
the quants that you have,
Yeah.
do they have the empathy with the rest of us, with the...
What do you think? so the quant guys.
I think
mean,
you have to explain them a lot.
Okay. Yeah, well, I think they are the brightest, and we have an extremely well-positioned quant team that makes us, I think, one of the best companies with a broad portfolio on quant. But social interaction is something that we need to spend a lot of time and money on to make sure that they giving each other feedback is right? So and that doesn't work. So you have to do that differently. And of course, there's much more nuance to that than I'm showing now. But the majority of our population is mostly quant driven. So we need to humanize them a bit as well.
So last question for you. So does Robeco invest in companies that would reduce happiness?
That would reduce happiness.
Yes.
Wow.
So would you put your money in companies that
do not make people happy?
Yeah.
No, I would say no. But the thing is, it's so...
But is it a real policy that you...
not making people happy? No.
No. I mean, not investing in companies that do not serve
the purpose of happiness. Yeah. No, I mean, one of the other focus areas in sustainability investing, right? So exclusion policies, for instance, are not a strange thing for us. So they exclude dealing with companies in weapons and all kinds of things. But we also shift to companies who are very well positioned on the climate side, on smart materials, on energy, on gaining water. So we have a lot of those thematic funds. And we have a healthy living one. And maybe it's good if we add happiness to the healthy living one and make that a good balance. I'll take the suggestion with me.
Okay, Karin, thank you very much. Thank you.